Hey parents, can I ask you something real quick? Do you know there's one simple thing you can do today that your teen may roll their eyes at now, but they'll actually thank you for later? Stick with me because in this episode of TK's Diary, I'm going to show you exactly what that is.
All right, let's dive in. Today we're talking about something every parent of a teenager deals with. Something that feels really tough, but is absolutely vital for their future: correction. We're going to see how it's not just about discipline, but it's actually about shaping their entire destiny. So let's just get right to the heart of it, shall we? For parents, this whole issue usually boils down to one single, difficult question that we all wrestle with. Just think about that for a second. When you know you need to step in and correct your teen, what's your gut reaction? Is it, okay, this is an act of love, or is it that sinking feeling of, ugh, here comes another fight? Now, this next idea, it comes from Proverbs. And look, it can be a really tough one to hear. It says that a kid who's just left to figure it all out on their own can end up bringing shame. The point isn't to be harsh, not at all. It's really to show us the incredible importance of our job as their guides. And this gets to a huge point. Trying to avoid conflict by ignoring the issue, it doesn't actually protect your teen. All it does is push the pain down the road, where it gets bigger. You see, their destiny isn't just built on their own dreams. It is profoundly shaped by your courage to step in with that loving correction when they need it most.
To really get a sense of just how high the stakes are here, let's look at this powerful story from history. It shows two completely different outcomes that hinged on this one single principle.
And yeah, we're talking about that King David, the one who took down Goliath, the legendary king, a guy who was called a man after God's own heart. His life is basically a masterclass in the power of correction, both giving and receiving it. So check this out. It's a tale of two destinies. On one hand, when the prophet Nathan calls David out for a massive failure, David actually listens. He humbles himself, and it literally saves his destiny. But then, later in life, his own son Adonijah is heading straight for a cliff, and David, he says nothing. He doesn't correct him, and that silence leads to absolute disaster. It's the same man, but two pivotal moments where the simple act of correction changes everything. Okay, so this brings us to what I think is the biggest mindset shift in this whole explainer. We have to totally reframe what correction is and what it's for. So let's just throw out the old definition. Correction is not about punishment. It's not about anger or being controlling. I want you to think of it like this. It is an act of protection. It has two really simple goals. Number one, stop the damage that's happening right now. And number two, reset their directions so they can get back on the right path. That's it. You know, a lot of us know this line from Psalm 23, but have you ever really thought about what it means? A shepherd's staff. That's for gentle guidance. But the rod has a tougher job. It's for fighting off wolves and for giving a firm tap to a sheep that's wandering towards a cliff. The whole point is that both the gentle guidance and the firm correction are tools of comfort. They come from the same loving shepherd. And that leads to this huge takeaway. Of course, our kids need hugs. They need our encouragement, our I love yous, but they also desperately need our courage. The courage it takes to plant your feet, set a boundary, and say no, even when it feels like the hardest thing in the world to do. So what does this actually look like day to day? Well, you can think of it as these three key actions. Saying no with courage that stops the bad momentum. Saying stop with love that intervenes when you see a destructive behavior. And then saying this is the way with wisdom. Well, that's the crucial part. That's where you reset their direction and point them toward the incredible future they're meant for. Okay, but let's be real for a second. This whole process is not easy and you don't always see the rewards right away. So let's talk about the long game, the long-term harvest of doing this hard work. And this is just the honest-to-goodness truth, right? I mean, no teenager in the history of the universe has ever turned to their parents and said, "Wow, Mom, Dad, thank you so much for grounding me this weekend. I really appreciate you taking my phone." It just doesn't happen. It stings, it's unpleasant for them, and honestly, it's usually pretty unpleasant for us too. But the book of Hebrews gives parents this incredible promise if they just hang in there. It's a three-step process. Step one, yep, correction stings. We just established that. But that short-term sting leads to step two, training. And that training, over time, produces an amazing harvest in step three, a character built on righteousness, on peace, on inner strength. It's a process with a guaranteed payoff. So it all boils down to this one question that we as parents have to ask ourselves. What do we want most for our kids? Do we want their comfort today, avoiding a tough conversation, keeping the peace? Or do we want to help them build the character they're going to need for the rest of their lives tomorrow? So as we bring this all home, let's focus on what this really means for you. It's an empowering call to action for every single parent listening right now.
So here it is. This is your charge. Don't shrink back from those tough moments, lean into them. See them not as conflicts you need to avoid, but as these critical opportunities to show your love, to love them enough to correct them, and to guide them enough to set them back on the right path. That potential, that destiny locked inside your child, it is huge. It is so magnificent, but it's just too big and too important to be left to grow all on its own without any guidance. They need you. They need your wisdom, and man, do they need your courage.
And we're going to end with this one powerful idea that kind of reframes your whole job as a parent. You're not just raising a kid, you're a destiny shaper. The idea is that your child was placed in your family specifically so that you could be the one to help place them right in the middle of the incredible future they were always meant to have.
All right, parents, that's it for today. Remember, little choices shape big destinies. If this hit home, wait until you hear episode 2, How to Correct Without Crushing Your Teen. Trust me, that one's a game changer. See you there. This is TK's Diary.